Today I will be reading a story that I wrote called Visitor in the Night. Walking down the street on his way home after working overtime at the local bar, Darren suddenly got the feeling like he was being watched. Stopping, he looked around. Not seeing anything or anyone, he shook his head as he continued walking, but the feeling soon returned. Though not usually easily spooked, he quickened his pace. Finally reaching his apartment, he glanced around one last time before unlocking the door and going in, tossing the keys onto the little table. Beside the door, he went into the kitchen, opened the fridge, grabbing a Coke. Coming back into the living room, he sat down on the couch as he laid his head back, breathing a big sigh. But no sooner had his eyes begun to shut, he heard a soft knock at the door. Raising his head, he looked at the door irritably. Who the hell could that be this time of night? He muttered to himself. Looking at his watch, seeing it was 2:30 in the morning. Getting up, he walked over and opened the door. Yeah, he snapped, which he instantly regretted as he saw a slight-framed woman standing there hunched over with her arms across her stomach. The woman looked up at him and mouthed the word help before seeming to faint. Hey, whoa! Reaching out, Darren caught her just as she was about to hit the concrete walkway outside his door. Shutting the door behind him, he could feel her trembling as he helped her over to the couch. Sitting down beside her, he looked at the woman as her head lolled forward. Are you okay? He asked. No answer. What's your name? After a long pause, the woman finally spoke. Isabella Dufour, she whispered. Do you want anything to eat or drink? Yes. What do you want? She raised her head slightly. Vete, she whispered. Confused, Darren frowned. What's... he began, when suddenly the woman lunged at him. What the... he cried out in surprise as he felt a sharp, piercing pain in his neck, feeling himself grow weak almost instantly. With a sigh of satisfaction, Isabella laid him back against the couch cushion as she stood up. Looking up, Darren could see blood, his blood, on her lips. You're a vampire, he whispered breathlessly. Perceptive, aren't we? She responded, with a hint of sarcasm as she wiped at the blood that had begun to run down her chin, sucking it from her fingers. Are you going to kill me? You know, I usually only ever go after the corrupt society. Murderers, thieves, people like that. People society won't miss. She continued, as if Darren had said nothing. But they all seem to be hiding tonight, she said in an almost disappointed-like tone of voice. As she walked back and forth, the heels of her shoes clicked on the apartment's wood floor. But then I saw you walk by. She stopped pacing as she looked back at Darren. So, after watching to see what apartment you went into, I waited for a bit before I came over and knocked on your door. But why didn't you just get me while I was on the street? Darren asked as he realized it was cold, despite the fact it was the middle of summer. Because I usually don't roam this part of town, and I didn't want to cause an unnecessary scene, she smirked. And besides, it's so much sweeter when there's fear coursing through the vitae of what you humans call blood. Are you going to kill me? Isabella twisted her mouth to the side as if in thought. I don't know. Sitting down on the couch beside Darren, she curled her legs behind her. "What do you think I should do?" she asked, twirling a hair around her finger. Completely dumbfounded by what she had just said, Darren just stared at her. "Well?" she asked after several minutes. I don't want to die," Darren said feebly. "I'll tell you what," she said, after what felt to Darren like an eternity. "If you become my donor, I won't kill you." Darren frowned. "Donor?" he asked, confused, and also a little afraid. Like a blood donor?" "Yes, like a blood donor," she said as she cocked her head to the side. "So, what do you say?" Darren hesitated. "Or I could restrain you right here, right now, which I really don't want to do, because you seem like such a nice guy, helping a poor little innocent girl like me." She laid her head on his shoulder. "So?" Darren swallowed heavily. "If I become your donor, will you promise not to kill me?" Raising her head, Isabella sighed. "Well, I usually don't like to make promises, but for you, okay, I promise." She made a sign of an X across her chest. "Cross my heart and hope to die," she said with a smile, pressing her tongue up against one of her fangs. Hesitantly, Darren nodded. Okay, I'll do it." "Great." Getting up off the couch, she bent down and kissed Darren on the cheek. He flinched. Smiling, she headed over to the door. "Well, I guess I'd better go and let you get your rest." With her hand on the knob, she looked back at Darren and smiled again. "Good night." And with that, she went out, closing the door behind her, leaving Darren alone to contemplate what he had just agreed to. The end.